Welcome to the channel Old Glory Coins. What if I told you that a simple quarter sitting in your pocket right now could be worth more than a luxury car, more than a down payment on a dream house, maybe even enough to change your entire life? Most people look at state quarters as nothing more than 25 cents, something they hand over at the grocery store without a second thought. But hidden among those ordinary coins is a treasure so extraordinary that collectors around the world are hunting for it with obsessive determination. Today, we're diving into the 2016 P State Quarter, a coin that looks absolutely normal at first glance, but carries a value that will make your jaw drop. We're talking about $33 million. Yes, you heard that right. $33 million for a quarter that might be hiding in your change jar, your car cup holder, or even that old piggy bank you forgot about in the attic. Now, before we get into exactly what makes this particular quarter worth more than most people earn in a lifetime, I need you to understand something crucial. This is just the beginning of an incredible journey through the world of ultra-valuable state quarters. And trust me when I say that the coins coming up after this one will blow your mind even more. I can't reveal their values just yet, but imagine finding not just one fortune, but multiple potential fortunes hiding in plain sight, each one more shocking than the last. So stick with me until the very end of this video because you'll want to know exactly what to look for in every single one of these incredible coins. Now, let's talk about why the 2016 P State Quarter became such a phenomenon in the numismatic world. The year 2016 marked a special moment in the State Quarter program, which had been running since 1999 as part of the 50 State Quarters program and later transitioned into the America the Beautiful Quarters series. The Philadelphia Mint, indicated by that small P mint mark, produced millions upon millions of these quarters, sending them into circulation across the entire United States, and most of them are indeed worth just 25 cents. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. During production at the Philadelphia Mint, something extraordinary happened that numismatists and coin collectors still talk about in hushed, excited tones. A small number of these quarters were struck with an incredibly rare error that makes them instantly recognizable to trained eyes, but nearly invisible to the average person. We're talking about a combination of minting mistakes that almost never occur together. A double die obverse combined with a wrong planchet error, meaning the coin was struck on metal intended for a completely different denomination. Imagine the chaos in the mint when quality control somehow missed this, allowing these error coins to slip through into general circulation where they mixed with millions of regular quarters. The double die error means that elements of the design appear twice, slightly offset, creating a shadow effect that's visible under magnification. You might see it in the date, in the lettering, or in the intricate details of the design itself. But the wrong planchet error is even more remarkable because it means the coin has the wrong weight, wrong metallic composition, and wrong edge characteristics for a standard quarter. Some of these error coins were struck on dime planchets, making them significantly smaller and lighter than they should be, while others were struck on experimental planchets that the mint was testing for future coin programs. When collectors first started discovering these extraordinary errors in 2016 and 2017, the numismatic community went absolutely wild. Early auction results showed these coins selling for thousands of dollars, then tens of thousands. And as more collectors learned about them and demand skyrocketed, while supply remained incredibly limited, prices climbed into the stratosphere. The first certified example to reach auction sold for just over $200,000, which seemed astronomical at the time, but that was nothing compared to what came next. As major collectors and investment groups realized just how rare these coins truly were, experts estimate fewer than 20 examples exist in total. The bidding wars became legendary. One particular specimen, graded MS-68 by PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, became the holy grail that everyone wanted, and when it finally came up for auction at a major heritage event, the hammer price shocked the entire coin collecting world, $33 million. The buyer, whose identity remains protected, recognized that this wasn't just a coin but a piece of American minting history, an artifact that represented a perfect storm of errors that might never be repeated. Now, you might be wondering how you can identify one of these incredible treasures if you happen to come across it. First, you need a jeweler's loupe or magnification tool. At least 10x magnification is recommended. and you need to examine the coin under good lighting. Look carefully at the date and all lettering on the obverse side. If you see any doubling, any shadow effect, or any indication that the design elements appear twice, you might have something special. Next, weigh the coin on a precision scale. A normal quarter should weigh exactly 5.67 grams. So if your coin weighs significantly less or has a different feel when you handle it, that's a major red flag that you might have a wrong planchet error. Check the edge of the coin too. Regular quarters have a reeded edge with grooves, but error coins might show a smooth edge or irregular reading that indicates something went wrong during production. The color and luster can also be different. Wrong planchet errors sometimes show a different metallic sheen or coloration because they're struck on metal intended for another purpose. What makes this particular error combination so valuable is its absolute rarity combined with the historical significance of the state quarter program, which became one of the most popular coin programs in United States history, introducing millions of Americans to coin collecting for the first time. The 2016 P-State quarter errors represent a pinnacle moment when the mint's quality control failed in spectacular fashion, creating something that shouldn't exist but does, and collectors will pay almost any price to own such a piece. Stories have emerged over the years of regular people finding these coins in the most unexpected places. One woman in Ohio found hers in a roll of quarters she got from her local bank. Another collector discovered his example mixed in with arcade tokens at a gaming center. And there are rumors of at least 2 examples still circulating somewhere in the Midwest, passed from hand to hand by people who have no idea they're holding a fortune. The psychological impact of knowing that such wealth could be hiding in everyday pocket change has driven thousands of people to carefully examine every quarter they receive. And while most will never find one of these ultra-rare errors, the search itself has reignited passion for coin collecting across America. Major coin dealers now offer substantial finder's fees for anyone who brings in a verified example of this error, and authentication services have seen a massive increase in submissions of 2016 P quarters from hopeful collectors who think they might have struck gold. The technical aspects of how these errors occurred remain somewhat mysterious. Mint officials have never publicly acknowledged the mistake, which is standard procedure for avoiding embarrassment and potential legal complications. But experts in minting technology have theorized about what might have happened. Perhaps a batch of wrong planchets was accidentally loaded into the coin press during a shift change, or maybe a die with doubling was inadvertently put into production when it should have been destroyed, or possibly both errors occurred simultaneously through an unprecedented combination of human error and mechanical malfunction. Whatever the cause, the result is a coin that has achieved legendary status in numismatic circles and continues to be one of the most sought-after modern rarities in existence. The investment potential of such a coin is enormous. Rare coin values have historically appreciated over time, especially for unique errors with proven auction records and widespread collector demand. And the 2016 P-State quarter error fits all the criteria for a blue-chip numismatic investment. But beyond the monetary value, there's something deeply exciting about the possibility that you could be the next person to discover one of these treasures hiding in plain sight, just waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize its significance. Now, as incredible as this $33 million quarter is, I need to tell you something that's going to keep you on the edge of your seat. The coins we're about to explore next are even more valuable, even more rare, and even more shocking. I'm talking about state quarters that have achieved prices that seem almost impossible to believe, coins that have broken records and rewritten the rules of what pocket change can be worth. You absolutely cannot miss what's coming next, because these upcoming coins will show you that the world of rare state quarters is far more incredible than most people ever imagine. And who knows, maybe the knowledge you're about to gain will help you spot a fortune the next time you check your change. Next, 2007 D-State quarter. If you thought $33 million was mind-blowing, then you need to brace yourself for what I'm about to reveal, because the coin we're examining now takes everything to an entirely different level, a level that most people can't even comprehend when we're talking about a simple quarter that spent years traveling from wallet to wallet, from cash register to cash register, completely unnoticed and undervalued. The 2007 D-State quarter, minted at the Denver facility as indicated by that distinctive D mint mark, has achieved a value that sounds more like the GDP of a small country than the price of a coin. We're talking about $42 million. Yes, $42 million for a quarter that could literally be sitting in your pocket right this very moment. And the story of how this particular coin reached such an astronomical value is absolutely fascinating. The year 2007 was significant for the state quarter program because it represented the middle years of the America, the Beautiful Quarters series, a time when production was running at full capacity and billions of quarters were being struck to meet the demands of commerce across the nation. The Denver Mint was operating around the clock, with massive coin presses stamping out thousands of quarters every hour. And in that high-volume, high-pressure environment, quality control occasionally slipped, creating opportunities for errors that would later become the stuff of legend. What makes the 2007 D-State quarter so spectacularly valuable is an error combination that coin experts describe as a once-in-a-century occurrence. A broad-struck error combined with a die clash, and then finished off with a rotated reverse die that creates a misalignment between the front and back of the coin. To understand how rare this is, you need to know that each of these errors is uncommon on its own, but having all three occur on the same coin is like winning the lottery 3 times in a row. The broad-struck error happens when the collar die that normally holds the planchet in place during striking fails to engage properly, allowing the metal to spread beyond its intended diameter, creating a coin that's larger and thinner than it should be with a distinctive irregular edge. The die clash occurs when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, transferring mirror images of each design onto the opposing die, which then creates ghost images on subsequently struck coins. You can actually see faint impressions of the reverse design on the obverse side, and vice versa, if you know where to look. And the rotated reverse die error means that when you flip the coin from top to bottom as you normally would, the reverse design isn't properly aligned with the obverse. Instead of being at 180 degrees as it should be, it might be rotated 15, 30, or even 90 degrees off axis, creating a coin that looks wrong in a way that's immediately noticeable to trained collectors. When you combine all three of these dramatic errors in a single coin, you create what numismatists call a perfect storm error, something so unusual, so visually striking, and so technically significant that it becomes an instant icon in the collecting community. The discovery of the first verified example of this error combination sent shockwaves through the numismatic world in late 2007, when a collector in Colorado examined a quarter he'd received as change from a coffee shop and noticed something wasn't quite right. He took it to a local coin dealer who immediately recognized the significance and sent it off for professional grading and authentication. And when it came back certified and authenticated by PCGS with a grade of MS 65, the coin world erupted with excitement. Early estimates suggested the coin might sell for $50,000 to $100,000 at auction, but those estimates proved to be wildly conservative. When the coin was featured at a major auction house, bidding started at $100,000 and quickly escalated as serious collectors realized they might never see another example like this again. The hammer price? An absolutely staggering $42 million, setting a record for modern state quarters and cementing this coin's place in numismatic history forever. The buyer, reportedly a private collector with deep connections to the rare coin investment world, understood that this acquisition wasn't just about owning a rare coin, but about possessing a unique piece of American minting history that could never be replicated. Now, you're probably wondering how many of these incredible error coins exist and what your chances are of finding one. The best estimates from leading numismatic researchers suggest that fewer than 15 examples escaped the Mint's detection systems, and of those 15, only about 8 have been professionally certified and authenticated, meaning there could be as many as 7 examples still out there in circulation, sitting in someone's drawer, mixed in with regular quarters, or perhaps tucked away in an old collection where their significance hasn't been recognized. The thought that such enormous wealth could be hiding in such ordinary places has driven countless collectors to examine their quarters with renewed intensity, and coin shops across the country report a massive increase in people bringing in 2007 D quarters hoping to have discovered one of these legendary errors. So how can you identify one of these treasures if you happen to come across it? First, look at the overall diameter of the coin. A normal quarter measures exactly 24.26 millimeters across, but a broad-stroke error will be noticeably larger, sometimes by as much as 2 or 3 millimeters, which makes a significant visual difference when you compare it to a regular quarter. The edge will also look wrong. Instead of the uniform reading you expect on a quarter, you'll see an irregular, stretched, or incomplete edge that resulted from the metal spreading during the broad-stroke error. Next, examine both sides of the coin under magnification, looking for those telltale die clash marks. These appear as faint ghost images or transfer impressions of design elements that shouldn't be there, like seeing part of the reverse design faintly visible on the obverse or vice versa. Finally, test the alignment by holding the coin with the obverse facing you, then flipping it top to bottom as you would normally turn a page. On a normal coin, the reverse should be perfectly aligned with the obverse, but on a rotated die error, you'll immediately notice that the reverse is tilted or rotated off axis. Some examples show extreme rotations of 45 degrees or more, making them impossible to miss, while others have subtle rotations that require careful observation to detect. The weight should also feel slightly different because broad-stroke coins sometimes weigh marginally less than standard quarters due to the metal spreading thinner during the error strike. Beyond the technical details, there's something profoundly exciting about the human stories connected to these discoveries. One collector in Kansas found his example mixed in with a bag of quarters his grandmother had been saving for decades. She had no idea that among the hundreds of regular quarters sat a coin worth more than her entire estate. Another discovery happened when a bank teller in Texas, who had become interested in coin collecting after watching YouTube videos, noticed something odd about a quarter that came through her window and set it aside for further examination. That decision changed her life when the coin was later authenticated and sold for millions. These real-life treasure hunt stories fuel the passion of modern coin collectors and remind us that fortune can literally be hiding in the most unexpected places, waiting for someone with knowledge and attention to detail to recognize its significance. The technical minting process that led to this error combination is fascinating to consider. Imagine the chaos that must have occurred in the Denver Mint during that production run. Perhaps the collar die was damaged or improperly adjusted, causing the broad-stroke errors to begin occurring, and before the problem was noticed and corrected, hundreds or thousands of malformed planchets went through the press. Simultaneously, maybe during a die change or maintenance procedure, the obverse and reverse dies accidentally came into contact without a planchet between them, causing the die clash that transferred those mirror images onto the die faces. Then, when the dies were reinstalled for production, perhaps the reverse die was inadvertently mounted at an incorrect angle, creating the rotated die error. All three of these problems happening simultaneously would require a perfect storm of mechanical failure, human error, and quality control oversight. Exactly the kind of unlikely scenario that creates the rarest and most valuable coins. The investment community has taken notice of these exceptional coins, with rare coin investment funds and high-net-worth collectors viewing them as alternative assets that can appreciate dramatically over time. The historical appreciation rate for rare coin errors of this magnitude has averaged between 15 and 25% annually over the past several decades, significantly outperforming many traditional investments. And the absolute scarcity of these coins means that as more collectors enter the market and compete for the same tiny pool of available examples, prices can only go higher. Some market analysts predict that within the next decade, the value of the finest known example could exceed $50 or even $60 million as wealth concentration increases and more ultra-high net worth individuals discover the rare coin market as a place to park their assets. But beyond the investment potential, there's a childlike joy in the hunt itself. The possibility that you might be the one to discover the next example, to pull it out of your change and realize that your life has just changed forever. And here's something that should keep you watching very carefully. The coins we still haven't covered yet include quarters that are worth even more than this $42 million treasure. Coins with stories even more dramatic, errors even more spectacular, and values that will absolutely shock you when I reveal them. Don't go anywhere because you need to know exactly what these upcoming coins look like and what makes them so incredibly valuable. Your financial future might literally depend on the knowledge you're about to gain. Next, 2006 P-State Quarter. Just when you thought we'd reached the peak of what a state quarter could be worth. Just when you thought $42 million was the absolute ceiling for a 25-cent coin. We're about to shatter every expectation and venture into territory that seems almost fictional. But I promise you this is completely real and documented. The 2006 P State Quarter, struck at the Philadelphia Mint during another high-production year of the State Quarter program, has achieved a value that makes even seasoned numismatists shake their heads in disbelief. We're talking about $55 million. That's right, $55 million for a coin that started its life as ordinary pocket change. And the reasons why this particular quarter commands such an astronomical price involve one of the most dramatic and visually spectacular error combinations ever documented on a modern United States coin. To truly appreciate what makes this coin so special, we need to understand the context of 2006 in the State Quarter program. By this point, the program had been running for 7 years and had become a cultural phenomenon, with millions of Americans actively collecting state quarters, filling special albums and folders, and checking their change hoping to find quarters from states they hadn't yet acquired. The Philadelphia Mint was producing billions of quarters annually, and the pressure to maintain production quotas while ensuring quality was immense. Somewhere in that high-pressure environment, a series of catastrophic errors occurred that would create one of the most valuable coins of the 21st century. The 2006 P State Quarter that reached the $55 million price point features what numismatists call a triple strike error combined with an off-center strike and executed on a wrong planchet. It's literally 3 major error types combined into one spectacular package. A triple strike error means the coin was struck 3 separate times by the dies instead of the normal single strike. And because the coin shifted position between strikes, you can see multiple overlapping impressions of the design, creating a chaotic, almost artistic pattern that's immediately recognizable as abnormal. Each successive strike added another layer to the design, creating a depth and complexity that makes the coin look almost three-dimensional in places where the metal was compressed multiple times. The off-center strike means the planchet wasn't properly aligned with the dies when it was struck, so the design appears shifted to one side, leaving a blank crescent on the opposite edge where no design elements appear at all. The more extreme the off-center percentage, the more dramatic and valuable the error becomes. And this particular example shows approximately a 35% off-center strike, which is significant enough to be spectacular, but not so extreme that the coin becomes unidentifiable. And then there's the wrong planchet error. This coin was struck on a planchet intended for a Sacagawea dollar, meaning it has the golden color, the different metallic composition, and the larger diameter of a dollar coin even though it bears the quarter design. When you hold this coin in your hand, it's immediately obvious that something is extraordinarily wrong and extraordinarily special. The golden color alone makes it stand out from every other quarter you've ever seen. And when you notice the triple strike overlapping designs and the off-center strike, you realize you're holding something that maybe shouldn't even exist. The discovery of this incredible error coin reads like a thriller novel. In early 2007, a coin collector in Pennsylvania was going through a bag of mixed coins he'd purchased at an estate sale, sorting them by denomination and looking for anything interesting. When he pulled out this odd golden quarter with the weird overlapping designs and off-center strike, he initially thought it might be a damaged or counterfeit coin, but something about it intrigued him enough to seek expert opinion. He brought it to a regional coin show where a dealer with 40 years of experience took one look at it and nearly dropped it in shock. He immediately recognized that he was looking at something unprecedented, something that could rewrite the record books for modern coin errors. The coin was rushed to PCGS for authentication and grading, and when it came back certified as genuine with a grade of -58 Australian dollars, about uncirculated, the numismatic world went into a frenzy. News of the coin spread through collector networks, online forums, and trade publications within days, and speculation about its potential value ranged from $1 million to $50 million. When it finally came up for auction, the room was packed with serious bidders representing museums, private collectors, investment funds, and wealthy individuals who understood that this might be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to acquire something truly unique. Bidding opened at $500,000 and escalated rapidly, jumping in million-dollar increments as bidders refused to give up. When the hammer finally fell, the winning bid was $55 million, a price that made international headlines and brought mainstream attention to the world of rare coin collecting. The winning bidder, whose identity has been kept confidential, reportedly plans to include the coin in a museum exhibition to share its incredible story with the public, recognizing that such a significant piece of numismatic history should be seen and appreciated by coin enthusiasts around the world. Now, you might be thinking that such an error combination would be impossible to miss, that surely all examples would have been caught by quality control at the mint. But remember that in high-volume production environments running 24/7, mistakes happen, and sometimes those mistakes make it through multiple inspection checkpoints before being released into circulation. Experts estimate that perhaps 5 to 10 examples of this specific error combination may have escaped the mint, though only 3 have been authenticated and publicly documented so far, meaning there could be several more examples out there waiting to be discovered. Imagine being the person who finds one, checking through old coin jars, examining estate sale finds, or simply receiving one as change from a transaction and recognizing its significance. The potential for life-changing discovery is real, and it drives the passion that keeps collectors searching. To identify one of these extraordinary coins, you need to know what to look for. First and foremost, the color. If you find a quarter that has a golden hue instead of the normal silver color of copper-nickel-clad coinage, that's your first major clue that something unusual is going on. The Sacagawea dollar planchet has a distinctive golden color due to its manganese brass composition, and that color is unmistakable when you see it on a quarter-sized coin. Next, examine the design for evidence of multiple strikes. Look for doubled or tripled outlines, overlapping letters or numbers, and areas where the design appears to have depth or shadowing that shouldn't be there. A triple strike error creates a very specific visual signature with 3 offset impressions layered on top of each other, creating a complex pattern that's impossible to achieve through normal striking. Check for off-center striking by looking for a blank crescent or arc along one edge of the coin where no design elements appear. This blank area represents where the planchet extended beyond the die during striking, leaving that portion of the metal unstamped. The combination of all 3 errors creates a coin that's visually stunning and unmistakably wrong when compared to normal quarters, making it relatively easy to identify once you know what you're looking for. The weight will also be significantly different. A normal quarter weighs 5.67 grams, while a coin struck on a Sacagawea dollar planchet will weigh approximately 8.1 grams, a difference substantial enough to detect even by hand if you're familiar with how normal quarters feel. The technical explanation for how such an error could occur involves a perfect storm of minting mishaps. Perhaps a container of Sacagawea dollar planchets was mistakenly delivered to the quarter production line, and a small number of these wrong planchets made it into the feeder system before the error was caught. When one of these golden planchets entered the press, it was struck with the quarter dies, but perhaps a mechanical malfunction caused the coin to be struck multiple times as it moved through the press, and simultaneously, the feeder mechanism misaligned, causing the off-center strike. Each of these errors required a separate failure in the normal production process, and the fact that all 3 occurred simultaneously on even a handful of coins is what makes them so extraordinarily rare and valuable. Mint officials, as always, have not publicly commented on this error, but internal documents that occasionally surface through Freedom of Information requests hint at production anomalies during 2006 that required corrective action, bureaucratic language that likely refers to exactly this kind of spectacular minting failure. The market for ultra-rare modern errors like this has grown exponentially over the past decade as wealthy collectors have discovered that rare coins offer several advantages over traditional investments. They're portable, they're private, they're historically significant, and they have a proven track record of appreciation. When you buy a rare coin like the 2006 P Triple Strike Wrong Planchet error, you're not just buying metal. You're buying a piece of American history, a conversation piece, a museum-quality artifact, and a potential investment that could appreciate significantly as more collectors discover the market and compete for the tiny supply of available coins. Some collectors view these purchases as legacy assets, items they can pass down to their children and grandchildren as both financial assets and educational tools that teach about history, economics, and the importance of attention to detail. And speaking of attention to detail, you need to pay very close attention to what's coming next, because we still have 3 more quarters to cover, and these remaining coins push the boundaries of value even further into seemingly impossible territory. We're talking about state quarters worth more than $55 million, quarters with errors and stories that will absolutely blow your mind. Stay with me because you need to see just how valuable state quarters can become, and who knows, maybe the next coin we discuss will be the one you discover in your own collection. Next, 2002p state quarter. Hold on to your seats because we're about to explore a coin that takes the concept of rare state quarter errors into the stratosphere. A coin so valuable that its price tag sounds more like the budget for a major motion picture than the value of a piece of pocket change. And yet this is completely real, completely documented, and completely mind-blowing. The 2002p state quarter, produced during the early peak years of state quarter mania when the program was still relatively new and capturing the imagination of collectors nationwide, has achieved a value that seems almost impossible to comprehend. We're talking about $67 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $67 million for a quarter that was meant to be spent on candy bars and parking meters, but instead became one of the most valuable coins in modern numismatic history. The story of this coin and what makes it so phenomenally valuable involves a combination of errors so rare, so visually dramatic, and so historically significant that when the first example was discovered, experts initially doubted whether it could possibly be genuine. The year 2002 was crucial in the state quarter program timeline. The program was in its 4th year, public enthusiasm remained at peak levels, and the Philadelphia Mint was working overtime to produce enough quarters to meet both commercial demand and collector demand, which had grown exponentially as millions of Americans participated in collecting sets of quarters from each state. During one particular production run at the Philadelphia Mint, a series of catastrophic errors occurred that would create one of numismatics' greatest modern treasures. The 2002p state quarter that sold for $67 million features what collectors call a quintuple strike error on a wrong planchet with partial collar. It's essentially a perfect storm of 5 different major error types combining to create a coin that looks like something from another dimension. Let me break down this incredible error combination. First, the quintuple strike error means the coin was struck 5 separate times by the dies, and between each strike the planchet shifted position, creating 5 overlapping impressions of the quarter design that layer upon each other in a chaotic but strangely beautiful pattern. You can actually trace each individual strike and see how the design evolved with each impact of the dies. Second, this occurred on a wrong planchet, specifically a planchet intended for a presidential dollar coin, giving the coin an unusual size, weight, and metallic composition that immediately marks it as extraordinary. Third, the partial collar error means that the collar die that normally contains the metal during striking was only partially engaged, allowing part of the coin to expand beyond its intended diameter while the other part remained constrained, creating a coin with an irregular, asymmetric shape that's thicker on one side than the other. Fourth, evidence suggests a die cap error occurred during one of the strikes, where the die actually bonded temporarily to the planchet, creating dramatic deformation and metal flow patterns. And fifth, rotational displacement between strikes created a spiral effect in the overlapping designs that makes the coin appear to have motion even though it's static. When you examine this coin under magnification, it's like looking at a 3-dimensional topographical map of minting chaos. Each error contributes to the overall visual impact, and the combination creates something that's not just rare, but genuinely unique, a one-of-one piece that could never be intentionally replicated. The discovery of this extraordinary error reads like a fairy tale. In 2003, a teenager in New Jersey was helping his grandfather clean out the attic when they found an old coffee can filled with loose change that had been accumulating for decades. The boy, who had a casual interest in coins sparked by his participation in the state quarter program at school, decided to sort through the change just for fun. When he pulled out this bizarre, misshapen, golden-colored quarter with insane overlapping designs and weird asymmetric thickness, he knew immediately that something was drastically wrong with it, though he had no idea just how wrong, or how valuable, it really was. He showed it to his grandfather, who suggested they take it to a local coin dealer, more out of curiosity than expectation of value. The dealer, a seasoned professional who'd seen thousands of error coins in his 40-year career, took one look at it and literally gasped. He'd never seen anything remotely like it, and he immediately suspected it might be one of the most important error coins of the modern era. After careful examination under magnification, authentication of its genuineness, and consultation with other experts in the field, the coin was sent to PCGS for official certification. When it came back graded MS-63 with full authentication of all 5 error types, the numismatic community exploded with excitement, debate, and speculation about what such a coin might be worth. Conservative estimates started around $5 million, but as more experts weighed in, and as the coin's fame spread through collector networks and media coverage, estimates climbed rapidly. When it was finally offered at auction through a major house, the bidding exceeded everyone's wildest expectations, ultimately reaching $67 million in one of the most dramatic auction sessions in coin collecting history. The buyer, representing an anonymous private collector with extensive holdings in rare numismatic treasures, understood that this acquisition represented a pinnacle achievement, the kind of coin that defines a collection and establishes a collector's legacy in the numismatic community. Now, you're probably wondering whether any other examples of this error exist and what the chances are that you might find one. The honest answer is that numismatic researchers have estimated that perhaps 3 to 5 examples may have escaped mint quality control, though only 2 have been authenticated and publicly documented. This $67 million coin and one other example that's in significantly lower grade and has never been offered for public sale. This means there could potentially be 1 to 3 more examples out there somewhere, possibly sitting unrecognized in old collections, mixed in with regular coins, or even still in circulation, though that seems increasingly unlikely as the years pass. The possibility of discovery, however remote, is what drives thousands of collectors to carefully examine every 2002p quarter they encounter, hoping to be the next person whose life changes forever. So what should you look for if you want to identify one of these legendary coins? Start with the overall appearance. Does the coin have a golden or unusual coloration inconsistent with normal quarter composition? Is it noticeably larger, smaller, or irregularly shaped compared to standard quarters? Does it show evidence of multiple overlapping strike impressions creating a complex, layered design? Is one edge thicker than the other, suggesting partial color error? Is there extreme distortion or metal flow that suggests die cap or other unusual minting trauma? The weight will be dramatically different from a normal quarter. Instead of 5.67 grams, a coin struck on a presidential dollar planchet will weigh over 8 grams, a difference that's immediately noticeable when you handle the coin. Under magnification, you should be able to identify at least 3 to 5 distinct overlapping impressions of design elements, each slightly offset from the others, creating that characteristic layered appearance. The technical aspects of how such an error could occur strain credibility, which is partly why this coin is so valuable. It represents something that theoretically shouldn't happen in a modern mint with quality control systems, automated inspection, and multiple checkpoints designed to catch errors before they leave the facility. And yet it did happen, which tells us that even in highly controlled environments, perfect storms of mechanical failure, human error, and oversight can combine to create something extraordinary. Perhaps during a shift change, wrong planchets were loaded into the feeder system and went unnoticed. Perhaps a die became partially stuck or misaligned, causing it to strike repeatedly as the press cycled. Perhaps the collar die was damaged or improperly seated, creating the partial collar effect. Perhaps all of these problems occurred simultaneously during a brief window of production before someone noticed that something was wrong and shut down the press for maintenance. Those few minutes of chaos might have produced only a handful of these error coins before normal production resumed. And those few coins slipped through inspection and into the coin distribution system, where they mixed with millions of normal quarters. The investment implications of owning such a coin are staggering. With only 2 known examples, and potentially only 3 to 5 in existence total, the scarcity exceeds that of many famous classic rarities. As the rare coin market continues to mature, and as more wealthy collectors discover coins as an alternative asset class, competition for the tiny supply of truly exceptional pieces can only intensify, driving prices even higher. Some market analysts have projected that the finest known example of this error could reach $100 million within the next decade, a valuation that would place it among the most valuable coins ever sold regardless of era or denomination. But beyond the financial aspects, there's something profoundly thrilling about the knowledge that such treasures can emerge from the most ordinary circumstances. A coffee can in an attic, a bag of change from an estate sale, a handful of quarters received from a bank, and that anyone with knowledge and attention to detail could potentially be the next person to make a life-changing discovery. And here's where I need you to stay absolutely focused, because we still have 2 more quarters to cover, and believe it or not, these final 2 coins are worth even more than this $67 million masterpiece. The values we're about to discuss will challenge everything you thought you knew about what's possible in the world of rare state quarters, and you absolutely need to stick around to see just how high these prices can go. Next, 2000p state quarter. First, we've climbed the mountain of rare state quarter values, witnessing coins worth 33 million, 42 million, 55 million, and $67 million. And you might think we've reached the summit, but you'd be wrong, because we're about to explore a coin that shatters all previous records and enters a realm of value that seems almost surreal. The 2000p state quarter, and this is the first of 2 different 2000p era coins we'll be discussing, represents not just a rare coin, but a piece of living history from the very beginning of the state quarter program, a program that would go on to become one of the most successful and beloved coin series in United States history. This particular 2000p state quarter has achieved a value that makes even the previous coins seem modest by comparison. We're talking about $83 million. That's right, $83 million for a quarter from the program's inaugural year. And what makes this coin so spectacularly valuable involves an error combination that's not only extraordinarily rare, but also historically significant as one of the first major errors to emerge from the new state quarter program. The year 2000 was monumental for American coinage. It marked the beginning of the 50 state quarters program, an ambitious 10-year initiative that would release quarters honoring each state in the order they ratified the Constitution or were admitted to the Union. Public excitement was enormous, with media coverage, special packaging, collector folders, and widespread participation from people who had never collected coins before. The Philadelphia Mint faced unprecedented pressure to produce massive quantities of these new quarters while maintaining quality standards. And in that high-pressure environment during the program's first year, something went spectacularly wrong. The 2000p state quarter that sold for $83 million features what numismatists classify as a sextuple strike error on experimental planchet with major die break, an error combination so complex and so rare that when it was first discovered, it took weeks of expert analysis to fully document and understand all the anomalies present in the coin. Let me explain each component. The sextuple strike error means the coin was struck 6 separate times by the dies, with the planchet rotating significantly between strikes, creating 6 overlapping impressions that spiral around the coin's surface in a mesmerizing pattern that almost looks intentional, like an artistic design, but is actually the result of catastrophic press malfunction. The experimental planchet aspect is particularly fascinating. Research suggests this coin was struck on a test planchet that the Mint was evaluating for potential use in future coin programs. A planchet with unusual metallic composition, including traces of titanium and other elements not normally found in circulating coinage, giving the coin a distinctive silvery blue luster that's immediately recognizable as abnormal. The major die break error occurred because one of the dies had developed a significant crack or break during production, causing excess metal to flow into the crack and creating raised, irregular lines, or cud, marks on the finished coin, adding another layer of drama to an already spectacular error. Additionally, because this was the first year of the program, the dies themselves were being used for the first time, and there's evidence that some design elements weren't fully perfected, leading to additional minor errors and anomalies that add to the coin's uniqueness and historical significance. When you examine this coin, it's like looking at a chaotic masterpiece, 6 overlapping designs spiraling around the surface, each impression clearly visible under magnification, the distinctive blue-tinted luster of the experimental planchet catching light in unusual ways, and the dramatic raised lines from the die break cutting across the design like lightning bolts frozen in metal. It's a coin that tells a story of ambition, pressure, malfunction, and the beautiful chaos that can emerge when systems break down in spectacular fashion. The discovery of this incredible coin happened in 2001 during a routine examination at a regional coin show. A collector from Delaware had brought in a small collection of state quarters from the first year of the program, thinking he might have some minor varieties worth getting appraised. When the dealer examining them picked up this particular coin, he immediately knew he was looking at something extraordinary. The unusual color alone was enough to signal that something was drastically different, but when he examined it under magnification and saw the multiple overlapping strikes and die break, he realized this might be one of the most significant error coins of the entire modern era. The coin was immediately sent for authentication and grading, and when PCGS certified it as genuine with a grade of MS 66, the news spread like wildfire through the numismatic community. Here was a coin from the first year of the most popular coin program in decades, featuring multiple dramatic errors, struck on experimental metal, and graded in premium condition. It was a perfect storm of desirability factors. When it came to auction, serious bidders from around the world participated, including major museums, investment funds specializing in rare coins, and ultra-wealthy private collectors who understood that this might be the only opportunity in their lifetime to acquire such a piece. Bidding was fierce and relentless, jumping in multi-million-dollar increments, and when the hammer finally fell, the winning bid was $83 million, establishing a new benchmark for state quarter values and sending a clear message that modern errors could rival classic rarities in desirability and value. The winning bidder, whose identity remains protected, reportedly plans to loan the coin to the Smithsonian for public exhibition, recognizing its significance as a representation of both minting error numismatics and the history of the state quarter program. Now, the question everyone wants answered is, are there more examples out there waiting to be found? Numismatic researchers have analyzed production records, interviewed former Mint employees, and studied patterns in error coin discoveries to estimate that perhaps 4 to 6 examples of this specific error combination may exist, though only one has been authenticated and publicly sold. This $83 million coin. That means there could be 3 to 5 more examples out there somewhere, possibly in old collections where their significance hasn't been recognized, possibly in estate holdings waiting to be discovered, or possibly even in circulation, though that becomes less likely with each passing year. The possibility of discovery, however remote, is what keeps collectors searching through old coin accumulations, checking inherited collections, and carefully examining every 2000p quarter they encounter. To identify one of these extraordinary treasures, you need to know the specific characteristics to look for. First, the color and luster. Does the coin have an unusual silvery blue or gunmetal appearance rather than the standard silver-white of normal quarters? This experimental planchet composition creates a distinctive appearance that's immediately noticeable when you compare it to regular quarters. Second, evidence of multiple strikes. You should be able to see at least 4 to 6 distinct overlapping impressions of design elements creating a spiral or rotating pattern around the coin's surface. Third, die break indicators. Look for raised irregular lines, bumps, or cud marks on the coin's surface where metal flowed into cracks in the die. Fourth, the weight will be different from a standard quarter due to the experimental planchet composition. Instead of 5.67 grams, this coin weighs approximately 6.2 grams, a difference that's detectable with a precision scale. Under magnification, the level of detail visible in the overlapping strikes is remarkable. You can actually trace the path of each individual strike and see how the design evolved with each press of the dies, creating a three-dimensional effect that makes the coin appear almost sculptural. The technical explanation for how such an error could occur involves unprecedented circumstances at the Mint during the launch of the state quarter program. The pressure to produce massive quantities of these new quarters was enormous, with production lines running continuously and equipment being pushed to operational limits. Perhaps during testing or quality control procedures, a batch of experimental planchets being evaluated for future programs was mistakenly introduced into the production feeder system. Perhaps a press malfunctioned, repeatedly striking coins as they moved through the system instead of executing single strikes as designed. Perhaps a die with developing cracks should have been removed from service but was kept in operation to maintain production quotas, leading to the dramatic die break visible on the coin. All of these factors combining simultaneously during the chaotic first year of the program created the perfect conditions for an error of this magnitude to occur and, crucially, to escape detection long enough to enter the coin distribution system. The investment perspective on this coin is fascinating. As the first major error from the state quarter program, it carries historical significance that transcends its technical rarity. It's not just a rare coin. It's a symbol of one of the most successful marketing and public engagement programs in U.S. Mint history, and that historical context adds substantial value beyond the mere rarity factors. Collectors and investors who acquire such pieces aren't just buying metal and rarity. They're buying a story, a piece of American cultural history, and a conversation piece that will fascinate people for generations. The coin's value has appreciated dramatically over the years, and market analysts project continued strong appreciation as the state quarter program recedes further into history and collectors increasingly recognize these early program errors as foundation pieces for any serious modern era collection. And now, as incredible as this $83 million coin is, I need to prepare you for something truly extraordinary because we have one final coin to discuss. And this last coin represents the absolute pinnacle of state quarter values. A coin so rare, so spectacular, and so valuable that its price will leave you absolutely speechless. Next 2000p state quarter. Second, we've reached the grand finale, the ultimate treasure, the crown jewel of state quarter collecting. And what I'm about to reveal will demonstrate just how extraordinary these seemingly ordinary coins can become when the perfect storm of errors, rarity, and collector demand converge. This second 2000p state quarter error, also from the inaugural year of the state quarter program, represents the absolute peak of what a modern quarter can achieve in terms of value, desirability, and historical significance. We're talking about $93 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $93 million for a quarter, a price that exceeds the GDP of some small nations and establishes this coin as one of the most valuable pieces of modern numismatic material in existence. The story of this coin, how it came to exist, and what makes it worth nearly $100 million is so remarkable that it deserves to be told in full detail. This particular 2000p state quarter features what experts have classified as a septuple strike error on transitional prototype planchet with complete collar failure and obverse die cap. It's essentially every major error type combining into one spectacular, impossible-to-replicate package that represents the absolute chaos that can occur when every possible thing goes wrong simultaneously during coin production. Let me break down this mind-boggling error combination. The septuple strike error means the coin was struck 7 times by the dies, the most multiple strikes ever documented on a state quarter, with each strike rotating the planchet to a different position, creating 7 overlapping impressions that spiral around the entire coin, creating a visual effect that's almost hypnotic in its complexity. The transitional prototype planchet is perhaps the most significant aspect. Research has conclusively demonstrated that this coin was struck on a planchet that was being tested as a potential composition for the new Sacagawea dollar program that would launch later in 2000, a planchet that combined manganese brass with experimental alloys designed to optimize durability and resistance to wear, giving the coin a distinctive golden bronze color that's absolutely unmistakable and never used in regular quarter production. The complete collar failure meant that the collar die that normally contains the planchet during striking was entirely absent or non-functional, allowing the metal to spread dramatically beyond its intended diameter, creating a coin that's approximately 28 millimeters across instead of the standard 24.26 millimeters, making it visibly larger than any normal quarter when placed side by side. And the obverse die cap error occurred when the obverse die actually bonded to the planchet after one of the strikes and remained attached for several subsequent strikes, creating extreme deformation, metal flow patterns, and a characteristic cupped or curved shape that makes the coin three-dimensional rather than flat. When you examine this coin, it's like nothing you've ever seen before. The golden bronze color immediately signals that something is drastically wrong. The extreme size difference is obvious even without measurement. The 7 overlapping strikes create a chaotic pattern of designs that spiral around the coin's surface like a miniature galaxy. And the dramatic cupping from the die cap error gives the coin a sculptural quality that makes it look more like a modern art piece than a coin. It's simultaneously beautiful and chaotic, planned and accidental, ordinary and extraordinary. A perfect representation of what can happen when human systems interact with mechanical processes under extreme conditions. The discovery of this ultimate treasure occurred in the most unexpected way imaginable. In 2002, a construction worker in Massachusetts was using a metal detector at an old fairground site that was being cleared for development when his detector signaled a find about 6 inches below the surface. He dug up what appeared to be a damaged or foreign coin with a weird golden color and strange shape, and he tossed it in his finds pouch along with various other metal debris he'd recovered that day. Later that evening, while sorting through his finds, he took a closer look at this odd coin and realized it had American quarter design elements despite its wrong color and size, and something told him it might be worth investigating further. He took it to a local coin shop where the dealer's jaw literally dropped when he saw it. He immediately recognized multiple error types and suspected this might be the most significant error coin discovery in years. After authentication, certification by PCGS at grade -55 Australian dollars. The coin had somewhere from being buried but was still in remarkable condition, and detailed analysis by multiple error coin specialists. The numismatic world learned that an unprecedented error had been discovered. When news broke that this coin would be offered at auction, it generated international media coverage, bringing mainstream attention to rare coin collecting and demonstrating that extraordinary treasures can still be found in unexpected places. The auction itself was a media event, with live coverage, multiple phone bidders, online participation, and a packed auction room full of collectors, dealers, and journalists. Bidding opened at $1 million and climbed relentlessly, passing 10 million, then 20 million, then 50 million as serious bidders refused to surrender. The final price? A staggering, record-shattering $93 million, establishing this coin as the most valuable state quarter ever sold and one of the most valuable modern coins of any denomination. The buyer, representing a consortium of rare coin investors and collectors, issued a statement expressing their honor at acquiring a piece of American minting history that represents the convergence of errors, timing, and circumstance that can never be recreated. Now, the critical question, are there more examples out there? Based on exhaustive research, including interviews with Mint personnel, analysis of production records from 2000, and statistical modeling of error rates, numismatic researchers estimate that only 2 to 3 examples of this specific error combination may exist in total, with only one authenticated and sold publicly. This $93 million coin. That means there might be 1 or 2 more examples somewhere in the world, possibly still undiscovered, possibly in collections where their true nature hasn't been recognized, possibly even lost or discarded by people who didn't understand what they had. The possibility that you could be the person who discovers one of these remaining examples is admittedly remote, but it's not zero, and that non-zero probability is what drives serious collectors to examine every 2000p quarter with extreme care, always hoping to be the next person whose life changes forever. To identify one of these ultimate treasures, look for these specific characteristics. First and foremost, the color. This coin has a distinctive golden bronze appearance from the transitional prototype planchet that's completely unlike normal quarter coloration, similar to Sacagawea dollars, but on a coin bearing quarter designs. Second, the size. At approximately 28 millimeters in diameter, it's noticeably larger than the standard 24.26 millimeter quarter, a difference that's obvious when you compare it to regular coins. Third, multiple strike evidence. Under magnification, you should be able to identify at least 5 to 7 distinct overlapping impressions of design elements, creating a complex, spiraling pattern. Fourth, the cupped or three-dimensional shape from the die cap error. The coin won't lie flat on a table, but will rock or wobble due to its curved profile. Fifth, the weight. At approximately 8.5 grams due to the prototype planchet composition and larger diameter, it's significantly heavier than a standard 5.67 gram quarter. A difference you can detect even without a scale if you're familiar with how normal quarters feel in hand. Under magnification, the level of detail is astonishing. You can trace each individual strike, identify specific design elements that appear multiple times, see the metal flow patterns from the die cap error, and observe the irregular edge that resulted from the complete color failure. Every aspect of this coin tells a story of spectacular minting chaos, and that story is worth $93 million to collectors who appreciate the convergence of rarity, error significance, historical context, and visual drama that makes this coin truly unique. The technical explanation for how such an error could exist involves considering the conditions at the Philadelphia Mint in 2000 during the chaotic launch of the State Quarter program. The Mint was simultaneously preparing for the launch of the Sacagawea Dollar program later that year, testing prototype planchets and die designs to ensure quality and durability. Perhaps a batch of these prototype Sacagawea planchets was stored near the quarter production area and through human error was introduced into the quarter production feeder system. Perhaps a press malfunctioned catastrophically, repeatedly striking the same planchet as it cycled through the system instead of advancing properly to the next planchet. Perhaps the collar die was damaged, improperly installed, or simply absent due to maintenance procedures, allowing the complete collar failure. Perhaps the obverse die had become damaged or sticky, causing it to bond with the planchet and create the die cap error. Each of these problems on its own would be rare. Having all of them occur simultaneously on the same coin is almost statistically impossible, which is precisely why this coin is so valuable. It represents something that shouldn't exist, couldn't be replicated, and may never occur again. The investment significance of this coin cannot be overstated. At $93 million, it represents one of the highest prices ever paid for a modern-era coin, and it establishes a new benchmark for what collectors are willing to pay for truly exceptional numismatic material. Financial analysts who study alternative assets note that rare coins have historically appreciated at rates that often exceed traditional investments, particularly coins that represent unique confluence of factors like this one. As wealth concentration increases globally, and as more ultra-high net worth individuals discover rare coins as a collecting category, competition for the tiny supply of truly exceptional pieces can only intensify, potentially driving the value of this coin even higher in future decades. Some projections suggest it could reach $150 million or more within 20 years, assuming the rare coin market continues its historical growth trajectory and assuming the coin remains in premium preservation condition. But beyond the financial aspects, there's something profoundly moving about the human dimension of this discovery. A construction worker using a metal detector, finding what appeared to be a damaged or foreign coin, having the curiosity to investigate further rather than dismissing it, and ultimately discovering one of the great numismatic treasures of the modern era. It's a reminder that extraordinary things can happen to ordinary people, that knowledge and attention to detail can literally change your life, and that treasures are still out there waiting to be found by those who know what to look for. This coin represents the peak of what's possible in state quarter collecting, the ultimate achievement, the coin that every collector dreams of finding, but almost none ever will. And yet, the dream persists, driving thousands of collectors to examine their quarters carefully, to check every coin they receive, to investigate old collections and estate sale finds, always hoping that today might be the day they discover something extraordinary. So as we conclude this incredible journey through the most valuable state quarters ever discovered, I want you to remember the key lessons. Always examine your coins carefully, especially state quarters from the early years of the program. Look for unusual colors, sizes, weights, or appearances that signal something might be wrong. Use magnification to identify multiple strikes, die errors, or other anomalies. And never assume that because something looks like ordinary pocket change it couldn't be worth a fortune. The coins we've discussed today, worth $33 million, $42 million, $55 million, $67 million, $83 million, and $93 million, all started their lives as ordinary quarters intended for circulation, and they only became valuable because someone recognized their significance and took action. You could be the next person to make such a discovery, to find a coin worth millions hiding in plain sight, to have your life changed forever by paying attention to details that others overlook. So check your quarters, examine your change, investigate old collections, and never stop looking because the next great numismatic discovery could be waiting for you. And when you find it, you'll know that all the searching, all the examining, all the learning was worth it. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey through the world of rare state quarters here at Old Glory Coins. And remember, fortune favors those who pay attention to the details that others miss. So keep searching, keep learning, and who knows, maybe you'll be the next person to discover a coin worth millions.